Hello everyone. I haven't made a Repro review for some time, and in doing some sorting out I dug out a pair of reproduction British jungle boots which I've had in the collection for a little while now. They came to me second hand and I thought it would be worth making a video having a look at these. Now originally these come from a company in Australia, and I'll put a link down below in a pinned comment for you to go and have a look at them should you wish to purchase. At the time of looking at the last time I looked at the listing, there were only examples of these in black canvas rather than green, but hopefully they will restock in green at some point in the future. And I say availability of these I'm not entirely sure on, but hopefully they will come back in stock and they'll be available for some time to come. I've certainly found them to be a very good reproduction. Certainly for my purposes anyway, and without further ado we'll get into the main part of the video now and have a look at these, and obviously you can make your own judgment based on what we look at in the video as to whether or not these might suit your needs. So these are the reproduction jungle boots we're going to have a look at. These come from Mitchell's Adventure in Australia, and at time of posting the video there are a limited range of sizes available of these in green. They're also produced in black, and again there are some sizes, not all, available in black as well should you want a pair of these in black. Obviously the green is more accurate for something that's supposed to be reproducing the boots worn by British and British Commonwealth forces in Malaya in the 1950s, and then obviously on into Borneo in the 1960s. And these were of course produced into the 1970s as well, and there were quite a few different variations of these manufactured basically with various different features in terms of the amount of rubber used, whether there was a toe cap, whether there wasn't, and so forth. The design did vary somewhat depending on manufacturer and the time of manufacture as well. Overall, these boots are not bad in terms of the overall look they reproduce. The rubber comes up a bit higher than it really should do, I would say, compared to originals of a similar pattern to this. The sole is somewhat thicker as well, but that does mean they're a lot more durable, which is a good thing from a sort of a reenacting point of view. Buy one pair of these, you don't then want them to wear out if you're wearing them fairly regularly. And with originals, with the thin soles and so forth, they weren't really meant to last. They have a very limited lifespan, so from that point of view these are better from that point of view, but it does also mean they're not a particularly accurate reproduction from that point of view. They're a bit more durable, they're a bit more heavy duty than the originals. These came second hand to me. You can see the sole still has plenty of wear left in it. They're a size 10, as you can see there. I take somewhere between a 10 and an 11, or 10 and a half, 11, and these fit me nicely as a size 10. So if you're somewhat unsure on ordering sizes, I have to order an 11 in some shoes, or have to wear an 11 in some shoes, but a 10 is fine in these. So they're an accurate size 10, or a large size 10, I guess you could say. That's been my experience anyway. These fit very well. As I say, the rubber lowers, a little bit more rubber here than there really should be, but the texturing and everything is quite nice. That does reproduce some of the originals quite well. Some of the originals did have smooth rubber as well, but for the sort of pattern this is trying to replicate, or that seems to be closest to this, the textured rubber finish is not bad at all. There is ankle reinforcing here, and this is actually a piece of pleather on the reproductions of faux leather. This should really be rubber rather than faux leather. If you were really picky you could perhaps replace this, but it's not too jarring when these are worn, but that is another feature which isn't really correct. The canvas uppers are nicely reproduced, let's say with the speed lacing hooks at the top there, as you can see, and the white lining inside, the white face of the canvas inside there, as you can see. Again, you have a label here, size 10, and these are made in China, as you can see there. So, had these for several years and the rubber seems to be holding up well. That's another point to mention with these. One thing I have considered doing is replacing the round laces with flat. The originals that are sort of closest to these reproductions tend to have flat laces, and that would just be a detail change that would improve the look a little bit, but it's not something I've felt the need to do as yet. Again, the blackened metal fittings look quite nice. They're quite a good reproduction of originals. A little bit shinier than they should be perhaps, but not too bad. And just to give you an overall look at these, as you can see here, the overall look is not bad at all, and they are somewhat, I say, heavier duty than the originals, which again, from a reenacting point of view, probably a good thing. But these are a sort of thing, if you wanted to do a display and you want to get some photographs, say, as we have done in the past, wading through a stream or something like that, much better wearing these than wearing originals. And I do have originals which I wear for when I'm reproducing kit for photographs and for videos and so forth. But if I was at an event wearing these for a whole day or several days, walking on hard surface and so forth, on concrete and so forth, I'd wear these rather than originals to cut down on wear and tear, basically, on originals. I'd much rather put the wear and tear on these reproductions. I'll remove this boot now and bring in an original just to compare against the reproduction. So I bring this in here. As you can see, the colour is not really a bad match. The original is a little bit darker, but it's not that far off. And you can see the speed lacing hooks there. The design of these overall, and I believe this is the sort of pattern these are supposed to reproduce. You can see here that the heel, the outer of the heel on these is reinforced rubber as well. That's probably the biggest visual distinction in the sole. Obviously you've got more of a curve to the sole and the different tread and so forth there, which isn't particularly obvious when you're wearing these. That's just something to note. You can see what I mean about there being more rubber, the rubber coming higher up the boot at the bottom here. The ankle reinforcing pad is somewhat smaller, and as I say, it should be rubber, as we have here, really, not this pleather material. But overall, they're not a bad stand-in and something that's a lot more durable. The toe cap, ideally, if it's trying to replicate this version here, which it does seem to be, should be sort of rounded off here rather than being a full squared off toe cap back to here, as you can see. But the texturing of the rubber is not badly reproduced. The diamond texturing there, as you can see, which does add to the overall look of these. So, as you can see there, not a perfect reproduction, but they are not a bad stand-in overall, I would say. And for my purposes, obviously I'm happy wearing these at events if I'm wanting to cut down, as I do want to cut down the wear and tear on originals. I do have originals and I would wear them for sort of static, taking photographs and recreating kit in that sort of scenario. But for events where I'm wandering around and obviously where there is wear and tear involved, I'd much prefer to wear these to save on that wear and tear. So as I say, these come from Mitchell's Adventure in Australia. At the moment, limited sizes available, but they may well restock. If you're interested in getting a pair of these, I would recommend getting in touch with them and asking whether they're planning to restock with particularly larger sizes. I think the current largest size they have in stock is size 9. So if you're looking for larger sizes, you'd need to ask. So that's a look at these reproduction British jungle boots. And as I say, quite a useful item. It's quite useful that there are reproductions of these out there. They weren't only worn by British forces, of course. They were worn by British Commonwealth forces involved in Malaya and then later in Borneo. And of course, they were used by Australian troops early on in Vietnam to some degree as well. Certainly you see the odd photograph of them in use, and I understand they were worn around base to some degree when the risks of wearing such flimsy footwear in Vietnam became apparent. So quite a useful thing to have on the reproduction market. Much as they aren't perfect reproduction, they're not a bad stand-in overall, and hopefully it's been interesting looking at these and hopefully it's been useful. So there we are. As said in the video, these aren't an exact match for the original pair we've looked at in comparison, but there were variations on the theme. Certainly those boots manufactured out in Malaysia, there are quite a few different minor variations to the design, and I think these reproductions are a good stand-in, certainly as a pair of wearing boots where you don't want to be wearing out originals, and that's certainly been my preference, is to wear these in preference to wearing originals. I'd much rather preserve those. The rubber soles obviously do wear away, and there's no real way of resoling these or repairing them in that way, so they do just wear out over time. So having obviously the thicker soled reproduction pair to wear, very much advantageous in my opinion in terms of not wearing out originals. So hopefully you found it interesting looking at these and it's been useful, and as I say, hopefully these will be stocked in green going forward and will be in stock for a while going forward and available. I'm not sure on current availability, but hopefully if there's enough interest, perhaps they'll keep manufacturing these for a while. As I say, I've certainly found them to be very useful, and you may as well. If you found it interesting looking at these and you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you would like to support the channel, you can. Both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below. And as ever, a massive thank you to everybody who supports the channel using those two methods. It really is greatly appreciated, as I always say. Thank you all very much indeed. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below. And if you'd like to get in touch but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address down there as well. That's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.